All right, hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in once again to the Black Box Podcast, BBOR, Black Box Online Radio. And right now we're just going to do a little bit of a live stream. I noticed some background interference with some noise lately that wasn't there in the past. I'm not sure what could be causing that, so I hope this one's going to come out clearly. Let's see how it goes. This is the second thing that I've done about the presidential candidate Darryl W. Perry from the 2016 general election. It isn't too certain if he's going to be running again for the 2020 presidential election that we have coming up, but Darryl W. Perry is, of course, running on the libertarian side. At least he did last time, and he's still very involved with the libertarian political platforms, and he runs Free Press Publications, which is available on Facebook, and does daily news segments every day, like at least 5 minutes a day of his radio show, podcast, whatever you'd like to call it. Now, what is this stuff all about? Well, the reason why I wanted to do another upload was I know it's not very popular on this channel, but we had the chance to talk about one of his new books that I have. It's called The Anarcho Teachings of Yeshua. Darryl W. Perry is an anarcho capitalist. He supports dissolving the federal government. And while I was reading this book, The Anarcho Teachings of Yeshua, it's really just about how no human being has dominion status over another human being. And if that's the case, then the concept of government is something which violates the rights of other people, in the sense that you're saying that this group of people will have dominion over the rest of the population. This group of people can make decisions for everybody. And of course, that would be in violation of certain libertarian ideas, most notably the non aggression principle that government is acting in an aggressive manner toward other people, violating all sorts of things across the freedom and liberty spectrum. Everything from reading people's emails, which they don't have the right to do across any legal system, or something from the larger things about reclaiming property. Like if somebody doesn't pay their taxes for 3 years, then they can reclaim the property. We talked about that in my first upload on him, but we don't really have to get into that too much. Or even the concept of eminent domain. What about that one? That's a big one. Well, like the government can sort of take someone's property, buy them out, so that they can build a public works function on that piece of land. A lot of things that he's a contrarian to, but I was really just thinking that it'd be very good to have a voice like his in the libertarian debates coming up for the 2020 presidential election, and definitely in the 2019 primaries getting on the trail, because I think it's a good thing to hear a variety of perspectives for the Libertarian Party. I think it's a good thing for the Libertarian Party to be evolving into something where they can have just ideas across the spectrum. There are some newly formed political parties that are sort of like, I guess, on the third party circuit, but the thing with them is they are all about one single set of points. They have like 10 bullet points, and that's just their political party. There's no kind of wiggle room. There's nothing for anybody to challenge. Like no one has their own sort of brand in some of these new third parties that are on the rise, like the Humanity Party that we've talked about a lot on this channel, as well as something else such as the Humane Party run by Clifton Roberts. So it's like it's good to see the Libertarian Party talking about different things, and to do so, they're going to need somebody to represent the anarcho-capitalist wing of this. I mean, I thought it was a very powerful idea to hear that whole concept about no human being has, dominion status over another human being. And it's somewhat of a religious book. It's called The Anarcho Teachings of Yeshua that I'm currently reading now. But there's just this one line when it says, "Give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and give to God what is God's." But there's a very big thing that is expressed throughout that stuff, such as everything is God. That's said later on. So if you put those two things together, then that means that give to Caesar what is Caesar. Well, that would be absolutely nothing. Give to the government what the government has. Well, this interpretation that we have in this book, The Anarcho Teachings of Yeshua, would really be nothing goes to the government and everything goes to the people. And it's just sort of like no human should be making any decisions that are above any other humans. Like you're not making something that would control another person, because that would be in violation of the non aggression principle, which means that you should only be ever acting in force for self defense. Or some people say that with the non aggression principle, You can be somewhat aggressive if you are reclaiming something that was stolen from you. Those things can also be included. It's a fascinating school of thought, and one of the things we have to bear in mind with the Libertarian Party is that a lot of people are saying that they were started in 1971 as sort of a way to for big business to not pay taxes. Like that's actually one of the sort of counter theories about why the Libertarian Party was started. Also, David Koch ran on the Libertarian vice presidential ticket in 1980. He talked all about things like privatizing the rivers. He wanted to just really sort of kind of privatize everything in short. But David Koch has left the party, and I believe he left the party because the libertarians took on more of what Darryl W. Perry is talking about, and the removal of all forms of taxation. Darryl Perry is somebody who advocates taxation as theft. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that we would also have to entertain the possibility of something such as libertarian secessionism. I would say that the libertarian secessionist arguments come out a lot more strongly than the complete, anarcho society things. Like to say that you're going to have a society with no government and that society is going to function. I'm not necessarily sure that that's a good idea for the example of, well, just to bear in mind that we have things like dominance hierarchies. That's what we're talking all about now online. There's so many things about, the dominance hierarchies, right? Well, then if you have a society that is run without any government, but just the people sorting themselves out, well, that's going to sort out into a dominance hierarchy. And then your dominance hierarchy is going to be the only form of governance. And you're not actually going to be at the same level as anybody else in that society. You're going to be at a certain level on the dominance hierarchy, and that's going to move the society to the more dominant person's advantage. But that's not necessarily the only way we can view libertarianism. Libertarian secessionism is another option. Well, what on earth is that? I mean, that's something where it's like you take a fence, you put it around the area where you live, and you declare yourself sovereign. You declare yourself, something like you've seceded from the United States of America, and then you're just like, I'm not going to use the roads, I'm not going to use any sort of public services, I'm just going to be a subsistence gardener on this tract of land. I would say, though, before you think that that sounds crazy, I mean, I would actually say that it's not. That is something that is not crazy. And Darryl W. Perry has talked a lot about secessionism. Well, when we want to examine that particular idea, it's sort of like that's something that could feasibly happen. I mean, yes, of course, the government's going to be very much opposed to that type of behavior, and they're going to try and shut you down. But that is something that is somewhat actually feasible. I mean, like you could actually achieve the secessionist model. I would say that it would be very, very difficult to achieve and sort of anarchist society model, but a lot of people are advocating for that. People like Stefan Molyneux used to talk a lot about that on the internet, about these sort of ending the state possibilities that we're just going to have like jet planes running without any form of kind of government at all, and we're still going to be even better than we were before in terms of transportation. That's when it starts to get a little bit difficult. I mean, like literally, I mean that difficult. It gets difficult to try and conceive of a society that is functioning without the concept of the state. But when you want to talk about secessionism, it is actually a plan that could be put into action. Like someone can feasibly live that way, where they're just sort of like declaring themselves independent from the rest of the United States of America. It's not impossible. So, I mean, I like people who are sort of coming up with ideas that are things that you could actually put into action because, a lot of the things we've talked about on this channel are they're different ideas. We talked about Andrew Yang and universal basic income. We talked about the Humanity Party providing the basic necessities of life to all people. We just mentioned Clifton Roberts from the Humane Party that wants an equal rights amendment for humans and animals. Well, is that going to happen in our lifetime? Probably not. And now we've talked about Darryl W. Perry and anarcho-capitalism, as well as things such as libertarian secessionism, and just the big idea that no human being is worth any more than another human being. And to have the concept of government saying that this person is the president and this person is the vice president and senators and speaker of the House down the line, that means that these people have more power over the population than other people. So therefore, that is something that is an immoral action, and people have to submit to this, kind of higher authority that shouldn't be there. At least that's what I gather from reading this stuff, and I love hearing new points of view and new ideas, and I'm just going to keep kind of investigating some of these things in the anarcho capitalist tradition. But what I would say is that I'm going to keep an open mind with some of these things. Once again, I still think it would be very difficult to have an anarchist society, and I'm not gung ho for anarcho capitalism and just using trade as a way to govern a society. I don't necessarily think that. I think it would be overrun by a lot of the dominance issues. But what we would want to know is that what is really going to happen with the libertarian primaries? Who are all the libertarian candidates that are going to run? Adam Kokesh has declared, and I would hope that Darryl W. Perry declares, because I think he could contribute something to the discussion. John McAfee has now fled the United States. He was a candidate last time in 2016. I hear John McAfee fled the United States on tax fraud charges, so we probably won't see him again. But that's all for me now. Until next time.